Hi, everyone. Welcome to Hope TV, Stars of Hope's brand new program where we share thoughts, ideas, and messages of hope. I'm your host, Kelly Burns, and today we have Ann Lawton. She is an artist, art therapist, and art educator living in River Falls, Wisconsin. In her art therapy work, Ann has been an art therapist and has worked with a variety of populations in the St. Croix Valley of Western Wisconsin and Minnesota, working with diverse populations, which include clients living respectively with depression, anxiety, addiction, and trauma. Regardless of the specific therapeutic needs, Ann has witnessed the power of art therapy through working with clients and providing them with the opportunity to participate in the innate life force of healing through creativity in addition to her art therapy practice. Ann also teaches full-time at the University of Wisconsin, River Falls. Ann, I'm so happy you're with us today.
So excited to be a part of this, Kelly. Thank you.
You are most welcome. So Ann, given your background and especially art therapist and as an art educator, I'd love to hear your thoughts and just impressions of especially what's going on right now. We're like in the middle of May. It's been several months of, the pandemic and its effect on everybody. What are your thoughts on how it's affecting
big question,
everything around
right?
you?
We're all just reeling with this because for me, this is week 9 of being in quarantine. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, my teaching at UW River Falls, we're in finals week now. So there's this weird sense of closure, even though things were stopped abruptly mid-semester. We're all witnessing, being in the Midwest, the changing of the season. So it almost feels like life is continuing to go on, but we're all staying in one spot. It's really, really surreal, right? So I think this, what I've observed is that we're all just trying to seek understanding, right? Like, when is this going to be over? We're all trying to find answers and stay safe, which is really challenging. And this is like the first time in a really long time that we as a collective whole, as a society, are in this together. And we're trying to grapple with making sense of this. So we're all, proverbially in the same boat, but we're, some of us are more inclined than others to cope with it. So we're all grappling in our own ways.
Yeah. I love that you pointed out that it's like a collective, we're trying to understand what is going on, and just what the heck to do with it.
And there's a lot of fear, and being able to call it that too. We're all very afraid, I think, and seeing how that fear has evolved since March, it's very, what I can see, it's very much present, but it evolves in what that means. So, initially the fear over getting ill or getting sick, I think that's still there, mm-hmm. but not as much so as maybe anxiety about what it means to go back to work, or what does things going back to normal, which isn't going to be normal. And those are naturally occurring feelings and fears that we would feel with any kind of change. But again, on such a mass scale, it's really daunting for us as a whole. But individually, I was on the phone with my mom the other day, and she lives over by Green Bay, Wisconsin, and she's retired, and her fears are much different than my fears. And, mm-hmm. What does that mean to be a 60-something-year-old versus me, 35, and wondering if I'm employed, whereas she doesn't have to worry about that, let alone acknowledging my privilege of like, I'm a white educated female with a degree, like, what does that look like based on communities, based on statistics? So acknowledging, I think, what, I can't say as a whole, like, what that looks like. I can only speak from my experience, but if anything, I hope that people are being empathetic and learning to cultivate empathy during this time.
Yeah. You're our first educator so far on Hope TV.
Oh, really?
Which I was very excited about, because the school experience, at least the college experience, has so drastically changed now and will be for a long time. So, what's it for you? What's your impression, like, students are going through right now? Mm-hmm. What's your take on it?
So for my institution, we were going to go on. We were designated a break before spring break, so we basically had 2 weeks off to make decisions. And so the last day that I taught was Friday, March 13th, and like I kind of had it in my gut. I'm like, this is the last time I'm seeing my students for a very long time, and it was hard to teach and see them, and they were scared, and being the person in charge, like sometimes I look around, I'm like, I'm the adult in this situation. This is so surreal. But, I think then changing what they've always known to be college or work or how they learn or interact with their instructors or classmates was ripped underneath that, with totally washed out, and having to change gears mid-semester amidst that fear. I have many students that are essential workers, many students who have friends and families who have been exposed to COVID-19. So how would I expect them to want to participate normally in education? There's been, it's finals week, and I think what students have appreciated the most from faculty is just reaching out like, hey, is there anything I can do? Extending deadlines. And again, that kind of empathy that we don't necessarily see all the time in higher ed. Seeing that spread out, I think is going to have to continue based on where each student is at. And this is just college, and we tend to forget about college students are 18 to, traditionally 18 to 24 years old, and they're still developing. Their brain is still developing. They want to be independent, but they're looking for leadership. And so I think, that's not to discredit them saying they're not prepared, but I think I've taken upon myself, this is just me, and I would have done it normally, is I've sent letters and care packages to my students, and they've just said that makes all the difference in the world. And it doesn't cost me anything. It's just, I have more than enough time on my hands to write genuine letters. And so I think that can lend into our a larger whole of like instilling hope and sense of community, is reaching out in these old-fashioned ways that can be really encouraging.
Yeah, that's that emerging adulthood, that that time frame, they still need support more so than ever, like you mentioned, and that hope, that extending that extra empathy from your as a professor.
Right.
That's,
And online
that's amazing.
online learning, let me tell you,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I hate it. And I remember being in college and taking one online class, and I did not do well.
Mm-hmm.
And then having taught previously online, I just missed the one-on-one connection and being able to be in person. And we're all forced into this. And so there are students that just really don't do well and tend to disappear. And that following up and emailing, hey, are you okay? What's going on? Becomes really important. And I think this is reflective of our communities too. If we see people or hear people or don't hear from people, what can we do to outreach and make sure they're being taken care of?
Wow. Yeah. So going on that then, and what can we do then? Thoughts on like, because I know I struggle with this, like we're all stuck like inside virtual, and everything is going through internet now, but how can we go outreach and reach out to communities that maybe we didn't think we could reach before?
Right. And I think, I even still get caught up. I'm like, who am I to help? Like I'm just one person, but it's about quality, not quantity in my mind. So, who haven't you heard from in a while, just that you're missing, just to, reach out and send them a text. But I think, even within a community, I've been seeing in this community, as well as even online, of people reaching out to nursing homes or geriatric facilities for people who cannot have visitors, to have pen pals or to correspond with. It just takes a little bit of courage. I think, speaking as a clinician, as an art therapist, for people who want help, the hardest thing to do is ask for help or admit that you need help. And like I often say that it's the bravest thing someone can do is pick up the phone and make that call to ask for an appointment. Same thing here. Like we're all struggling, and we tend to, I think, imagine like, well, other people have it so much worse. I shouldn't, take up those resources. But so being proactive and being like, you know what, I just want to contact this person. I want to see if, if there's certain, whether it's churches or hospitals or group homes that need help or need some type of service or correspondence and some type of mentorship, even from afar, can be really, really meaningful. And even if they don't utilize you right this moment, they'll have your name on on their list to be able to use later. And we know this is going to be a continuous thing. And at the same time, why haven't we done this, until now? So maybe setting up a more holistic, empathy-driven way of existing and collaborating in our communities.
Yeah. Well, of course, as an art therapist, I'm curious as to your thoughts on like the creative ways we can find calm within now, the day-to-day moments, that we all are experiencing increased anxiety, increased depression, I know mood swings. I've been seeing a lot of articles about like, it's totally normal to be having mood swings now.
I can attest to that. Like there are days where I cycle like the whole feelings wheel of I'm mad, I'm sad,
Yes.
I'm happy, I'm joy, and I think it reminds me a few weeks ago, I was contacted by the student newspaper at the university I teach at, and the student was like, "What tips do you have for students for staying busy?" And I had to reply. I said, that's what got us in trouble in the first place. Why we're all grappling with this is this need to stay busy.
Mm-hmm.
That our busyness has distracted us from acknowledging our emotions and processing them probably in a healthy way. So now we're making up for it tenfold. So thinking of creativity not as just this is one type of person. Creativity isn't a personality trait, but it's something to be cultivated and practiced throughout a lifetime. And creativity and artistic ability are two separate things. And a lot of people lump those two together. So maybe creativity is, well, it's May. Maybe I need to envision, maybe I get around to that garden that I've always wanted to plant. And maybe it's building birdhouses. Maybe it's yard maintenance. Maybe it's cooking a meal once a week for people, or baking. Or it could be artistic practice. Now, what I've seen in the past 2 months is this need for people to want to occupy their time, yes, but to try new things because they have the time and they're giving themselves the permission to do so. And what get in people's way, excuse me, I can't speak, but what gets in people's way is that fear again of I'm not good at this. I'm not this type of person. This is really hard. Well, yeah, it's going to be hard because you've never done it before. I think, fear and education go hand in hand, unfortunately, but this intuitive practice of spending just a little bit of time every single day can make a huge difference. But it's up to you. And having that autonomy to make that choice of what it is you want to explore with creativity, which is empowering, but also kind of daunting at the same time. So it's dualistic.
I've also, I've been following you on Instagram, and I know that you have live events where you guide people on kind of like a creative journey in a way. It's once a week, I think?
Yep, it's actually tonight. It's 7. It's every Tuesday. This is week 9 of Art with Anne on my Instagram. It's 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and it's 20 to 30 minutes of some type of artistic creative exercise. And I try to be mindful of how the diverse kind of skill set that people are bringing, and also materials. Not everybody has a whole studio to work with. So I try to keep it basic. Like tonight, we're working with pencil, and I'm asking those who are participating to bring a metal spoon because we're going to do surreal stuff with spoons. And it sounds, again, even that, you're like, what the heck does that even mean? Well, we're going to find out. And I think I've been so blown away that people keep on coming back week after week. At first, I think it was just an outlet for me because I miss teaching and I miss working with art therapy participants. So it was like nice for me, but to hear the feedback and see people's work week after week is really affirming. And this tells me again that people are seeking this out, and people are yearning to feel connected and feel seen through their creativity and their social media presence.
That's I just love that because we all have that innate need to create. We just need to find what it is and the right outlet.
Right.
It's so cool. So, Anne, any any other thoughts on cultivating hope through creativity? Any other, for our viewers, any other creating it, finding it, keeping it?
You know, I think of, someone asked me last week, why do you think you keep on doing this, even though things are strange right now? And I keep on coming back to, it's about connection, it's about relationships, it's about growth. And you can't have growth and empowerment without relationships. And we're finding, because relationships and connection in person have been ripped away, that increases our desire that much more. So the creativity and the art making mirror that process so specifically that, you know, again, I've talked about fear a little bit. I know that seems on the opposite pendulum of hope, but you need that fear and that anxiety, and to process that. And when I say confront it, that's not a negative term to confront, but to work through it in order to feel that hope. And it's that hope and empowerment through connections with others, through these means of these videos or FaceTime or text messaging or connecting with others in new and old ways, that is what's going to continue that. It's that regeneration process of connection, and how we will kind of get through this. I know that sounds kind of lofty, but it's through continuing to stay curious. One of the things that I was taught in graduate school was stay curious about everything. You know, once you start to kind of plateau and get bored, that's when you should be worried, because you probably need some new stimuli. And I think for a lot of us, we've had our stimuli removed, whether it's, so I would love to just go to my office on campus and work. That's all I want. But even that, I know I can't do that. So how can I stay curious in the space that I'm in? So asking questions of oneself, why, how, what, and who can I rely on to help me do that? So developing a support system to cultivate that hope is going to continue to be important.
Yes, very much so. And it's okay to ask for help, like you mentioned before.
It's so hard to ask for help. And
yes,
you know, I think we as humans never know what to say. And this is one of the things that why art therapy is so beautiful, is because it can be a catalyst for articulation. But, you know, during hard times, we tend to default and say maybe not so helpful things like, oh, let me know what I can do for you. Well, that puts the burden on the person who needs help. Instead, following up proactively, being like, hey, is it okay if I follow up with you later? Hey, is it okay if I send dinner over your house? What's your favorite meal? I'll have it ordered and sent out. Showing up and being proactive rather than reactive with our relationships, I think is going to maybe help us a little bit more than just sitting back and waiting for not so good things to happen, if that makes sense.
Very much so. Wow, very cool. Well, thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, yes. This has been fun.
I'm very glad we got to do this. Very cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody. That was today's Hope TV interview with Anne Lawton. Very, very excited we got to do this. And we'll be back next Tuesday. Thank you very much.